and good morning. Welcome to the APAC DNS Forum 2023. My name is Kaka Lam. It's my pleasure to be your MC today. Today's forum is jointly organized by ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, and HKIRC, Hong Kong Internet Registration Corporation Limited. The forum serves as a platform to gather regional internet-related industry experts and members of the wider community to discuss the latest developments, opportunities, and challenges in the domain name marketplace. To kick off today's forum, please welcome Mr. Simon Chan, BBS JP, Chairman of HKIRC, for his opening remarks. Mr. Chan, please.
Professor Sun, Professor Lee, John Crane, Mr. Chai Wan-Lo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the Hong Kong Internet Registration Corporation Limited, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all of you in Hong Kong. We are delighted to host the APAC DNS Forum 2023. The forum is a significant event that brings together experts from around the Asia-Pacific region to discuss the latest trends and developments in the domain name system. As the first physical event for ICANN in Hong Kong, the forum is an excellent opportunity to showcase the city's digital transformation and the role of the .hk domain name in driving e-commerce growth. This two-day forum is also the perfect occasion for senior executives, entrepreneurs, innovators, academics, and policymakers from around the world to be united in Hong Kong. In recent years, the internet has revolutionized the way we conduct business, providing new opportunities for entrepreneurs and businesses to innovate and grow. It has enabled us to connect with people and information in ways that were previously unimaginable. Through internet development, we have seen the emergence of new technologies such as cloud computing, big data, and artificial intelligence. These technologies are driving digital transformation, which is having a profound impact on all aspects of our society and economy in terms of long-term shift and structural changes. The pandemic has also highlighted the importance of a strong digital economy like never before. And digital economy provides a path forward for business and individuals, offering opportunities for growth and resilience in the face of uncertainty. The potential of the digital economy cannot be underestimated. Open international cooperation and discussion are therefore vital in areas such as infrastructure stability, data protection, privacy, and cybersecurity, as well as internet governance. They affect the whole of the world's digital economy. The domain name system is especially a crucial element of the internet infrastructure that plays a significant role in the digital economy. It enables business and individuals to establish an online presence, promote their brand, and connect with customers globally. By enabling business to establish an online presence and connect with customers, the DNS has contributed significantly to the growth of the digital economy, creating new opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship. It also plays a critical role in ensuring that the security and stability of the internet. Without DNS, the internet as we know it today simply would not exist. As many of you may know, the .hk domain name has been developed for more than 20 years, and it has played a vital role in fostering digital transformation and e-commerce growth in Hong Kong. It is used by businesses of all sizes and has contributed significantly to the growth of e-commerce in the city. The .hk domain name provides a competitive edge to business, and it has helped to establish Hong Kong as a leading e-commerce hub in the Asia-Pacific region. However, with the increasing frequency and sophistication of cyber threats, it is essential to have measures in place to ensure the security and stability of the .hk domain name. As a .hk registry, HK ILC is working hard in the field of cybersecurity and digital accessibility. We are committed to empowering everyone and contributing to the digital economy. We believe that by working together, we can overcome the challenges we face and create a better, more secure, and more accessible digital world. Once again, welcome to Hong Kong, and we hope you have a fruitful and enjoyable time at the APAC DNS 2023 Forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simon Chang, for your opening remarks. Please be seated. Thank you. Next, we'd like to invite Mr. Jiarong Lo, Vice President, Global Stakeholder Engagement and Managing Director of APAC ICANN for his remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jiarong Lo.
Professor Sun Tong, Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry, Engineer Tony Wong, Government Chief Information Officer, Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, Mr. Simon Chan, Chairman, HKIRC, John, my ICANN CTO, and Professor Li Xing from Tsinghua University. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for taking the time to join us for the APAC DNS Forum. Well, we launched the APAC DNS Forum last year. This is actually the first time we are gathered together in person. And I'm very happy to report that for this event, we have over 550 in-person registrations and almost 170 virtual registrations. I was a little bit worried about people turning up, but the room is full and I'm very grateful for everyone's support. Thank you so much for making the forum a success. Well, we had learned to work and stay connected virtually throughout the pandemic. In my many conversations with community members, it was clear that there is one thing that Zoom or any virtual meeting platform cannot replace, and that is the face-to-face networking and building of relationships. In our region, relationships matter. In many of our different languages in the region, we all can relate to this phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know that matters. This is extremely important, especially for us in this region, where relationships are really key. And I think that's also why there's so much excitement for us being able to come together again and see one another again and build that relationship. And this is precisely what I'm hoping that the APAC DNS Forum can provide, a platform for our community to connect, build relationships with one another. The DNS is the glue that holds the internet together, which then allowed for internet-enabled technologies, just name it, blockchain, AI, whichever, the exciting buzzwords that we're all talking about today. The DNS enabled these internet-enabled technologies to be developed and to thrive. And I hope that the forum can also be similar to that glue that holds us together, to help us to work with one another, help each other, widen our network, explore new business opportunities, or just to collaborate so that we can make the parts of the internet we all manage better. So going forward, we are working towards having the forum be an annual event. But not only that, I'm hoping that we can make the forum a platform for our community to stay connected with one another. So the forum's website, apacdnsforum.asia, I say that again, apacdnsforum.asia, will be that platform which will allow all of us to stay connected and will help us stay current with the latest topics of issues. So if you're interested to organize any discussion on a current topic, as long as it is related to the DNS, I'm hoping that through the website and through the annual event, we can continue to be able to work with one another, and that through the website, we will share your event with the wider regional community, and that we can continue to stay connected throughout the year until the next year when we host the event again in another city within the region. So now time to say some thank yous, and I'm very grateful for the partnership and support from Wilson and your team from HKIRC, also the Hong Kong government for your support to allow us to host this forum here in this beautiful city. And also a big thank you to my team, especially our project manager, Athena, and also my other colleagues who flew around the world to get here. And also thank you to our sponsors and supporting organizations. We have a long list, so I don't have enough time to read everybody's names, but I deeply appreciate your support. And again, thank you to everyone for your participation. A great success. Hope that we all enjoy all the conversations, and wish you all great success and good health in all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Low. Please be seated. Next, we are very honored to have Professor Sang Dong, JP, Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, the Government of the Hong Kong SAR, to deliver the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Sang, please.
Simon, Mr. John Quinn, Mr. Jiarong Lau, Professor Li Xing, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure to join you all today at the Asia Pacific Domain Name System Forum 2023. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the Hong Kong Internet Registration Corporation Limited, HKIRC, and the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, for co-organizing this meaningful forum. It offers a much-wanted opportunity after the 3-year fight against COVID-19 for industry experts and professionals from different sectors and around the globe to get together and exchange on the latest development, opportunities, and challenges in the domain name marketplace under the fast-moving digital era. There's no better place to hold the event in Hong Kong, which is renowned for its open, well-connected, and competitive economy supported by a top-notch digital infrastructure. Our domain name system infrastructure, characterized by its high level of reliability and resiliency, as well as low latency, is among the most robust in the Asia-Pacific region. Our telecommunications network is one of the most advanced in the world, providing a wide range of efficient services at affordable prices. We also achieve consistently remarkable recognition of our digital readiness and internet access capabilities. For instance, we rank third in Asia and ninth globally in the World Digital Competitiveness Ranking 2022, with our performance in the technology factor coming second in the world. Whereas in the 2023 global data center market comparison, Hong Kong's data center market came second in the Asia and fourth internationally. We cannot afford to be complacent with keeping up with the level of sufficient and up-to-date digital infrastructure. As part of Hong Kong's innovation and technology development blueprint promulgated last December, we set in train development of a number of initiatives to bolster our digital infrastructure and hence accelerate digitization and INT development in Hong Kong. Let me take this opportunity to highlight a few of these key initiatives. On the front of artificial intelligence, we are looking into the feasibility of developing an AI supercomputing center in Hong Kong. This strategic infrastructure is aimed at providing cutting-edge computing power and capability to local universities and research institutes, government departments, and industrial sectors, thereby capturing the huge potential of AI and INT development. Facilitating the free flow of data is another key work focus to strengthen our digital infrastructure. We're now forging ahead the development of the Consented Data Exchange Gateway, CDEG in short, which will enable data interchange amongst government departments upon obtaining citizens' authorizations. Our target is to link up the CDEG with the commercial data interchange of Hong Kong Monetary Authority by this year end and roll out the CDEG before the end of 2024 for adoption by various bureaus and departments and bringing greater convenience to the general public. With digital economy atop our agenda, the Digital Economy Development Committee, which is led by our Financial Secretary and comprises distinguished members of the IT sector, including some of the speakers today, are studying the strategy and key directions of Hong Kong in driving digital transformation, facilitating cross-boundary data flow, nurturing a talent pool, and building adequate digital infrastructure for Hong Kong to stay ahead in the digital age. There are a lot of exciting initiatives in the pipeline that will fortify our robust digital infrastructure and consolidate our competitive advantages as an international world-class INT center as held by our country's 14th five-year plan. With staunch support and wise counsel of industry players like you, I'm confident that Hong Kong will emerge as a leading hub for internet services and digital innovations in the Asia-Pacific region. Before I close, I wish the forum a great success and all of you a most rewarding and insightful discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sun. Would you please remain on stage for the photo taking? Would you please step to the center stage, please? Thank you. And we'd like to thank the Hong Kong government once again for its full support in improving the resilience in the digital age for all. So thank you once again, Professor Sun. Let us invite Chairman of HKIRC and our opening and keynote speakers, as well as our guests of honor on stage for a photo taking. Let's welcome Mr. Simon Chan, BBS JP, Chairman of HKIRC. Let's welcome back Mr. Simon Chan, please. Welcome, Mr. Simon Chan, our chairman of HKIRC. Welcome. And then may I invite Mr. John Crane, Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, ICANN. Welcome, Mr. John Crane. And then may I invite Engineer Tony Wong, JP, Government Chief Information Officer of OGCIO. Welcome, Engineer Tony Wong. And then let us welcome Mr. Jiarong Lo, VP Stakeholder Engagement and Managing Director, Asia Pacific, ICANN. Mr. Lo, please. Welcome, Mr. Lo. Would you please come forward? Thank you so much, as well as Professor Li Xing, Professor of Electronic Engineering Department, Tsinghua University, Deputy Director, China Education and Research Network Center. Professor Li, please. Let us take a group photo at this memorable moment. Would gentlemen please face our official photographer at the front? Are you ready? We'd like to thank all of our guests of honors for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. And let us seize the opportunity to have some more group photos. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, all our guests. Would you please remain on stage as we now invite the HKIRC Board of Directors to join us for another group photo. Let us welcome Mr. Raymond Chen, Deputy Chairman. Raymond, please. Mr. Lionel Chen, Deputy Chairman. Mr. Song Lee. Mr. Charles Lee. Dr. Winnie Tan, MHJP. Mr. Leo Liu. Dr. Rocky Chen. Engineer Wilson Wong, CEO of HKIRC. And Mr. Gabriel Pang for joining us today. Let's give our big hands to welcome all our board of directors of HKIRC. Thank you so much. Would you please step a little bit closer towards each other? And please face our official photographer first. Are you ready? Thank you to our HKIRC board of directors for their unwavering support in making this event a reality. Please keep your big smiles. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Would all guests please remain on stage as we invite all forum speakers to join us for another group photo. We have been fortunate to have a lineup of distinguished speakers from various companies who will share their insights and knowledge with us. May I invite all the speakers to join us on stage. Let us welcome Mr. David Melcher, Director, FortiGuard Responder Services, International of Fortinet. Mr. Alban Kwan, Head of Corporate Development and Strategic Alliances, APAC CSC. Mr. Morris Wangs, Head of Engineering for SSE and Zero Trust at Cisco in EMEA Cisco. Mr. Alan Lim, Head of Product Marketing, Cybersecurity, Sangfor. Mr. Jason Lee, PwC, Threat Intelligence Lead. Ms. Amy Chow, Country Manager of Checkpoint Software Technologies. Dr. Sekuthot, Advisor and Deputy Executive Director of ETDA. Ms. Kelly Hardy, SVP of Strategy and Development, IQ Global. Mr. Carol Bitter, Head of Data Spam House. Mr. Michael Fleming, Regional Director, North America GMO Brand Security. Mr. Hiro Hotta, Board Member and Senior Executive Vice President, JPRS. Mr. Cressor Feng, General Manager of SGNAC. Ms. Jennifer Chong, Director of Corporate Knowledge, Asia. Mr. Walter Wu, Co-founder and President, Trademark TLD Registry. Mr. June Gordon, Director of DICT. Mr. Jackie Ng, Principal Engineer, Fujifilm Business Innovation Hong Kong Limited. Mr. Sun Zhao, Director of Domain Name Registry and CACNAC. Mr. Anawin Ponsaburipat, Assistant Director, THNIC Foundation. And then let us welcome Mr. Lu Zhaoyi, PhD Researcher, Tsinghua University. Mr. Liu Baojun, Assistant Professor, Tsinghua University. Mr. Michael Ri, CEO of Central NIC Group. Ms. Antonia Chu, Senior Policy Advisor of Alibaba. Mr. Satish Babu, Member at Large Advisory Committee. Ms. Nguyen Thi On, Deputy Director of Cooperation and Resources Management, VNNIC. Ms. Sophia Fong, Deputy General Manager of ZDNS. Mr. Timothy Tam, Head of Government Affairs and Public Policy of Google Hong Kong. And also Engineer Alan Yun, JP, Founder and CEO of Intelli Global Corporation Limited. Mr. Samuel Ho, CEO of Nova Credit Limited. Mr. Horace Tan, Head of Data, UMP Healthcare Group, as well as Ms. Selina Lau, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Federation of Insurers. Welcome all our guests. Welcome. Would everyone on stage please face our official photographer? Where is our official camera? Can you see that? Yes. Maybe let the mobile phone take the photo first, and then please put down your phones. Okay? Great. So it's time for our official photographer to take the beautiful photos. Would our guests in the front please put down your phone? Thank you so much. Please face our official one. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Let's take another one with your big smile once again. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Cheese. Excellent. Thank you for all our speakers. With our speakers, please take your seats. With our other guests, please remain on stage as we'll have a final group photo with our sponsors. We'd like to invite our sponsors to join us on stage for a group photo. Their support has been crucial in making this event a reality, and we'd like to express our appreciation for their generosity. May I invite our sponsors' representatives to join us here on stage for another group photo. Thank you so much. Let's give our biggest round of applause to welcome the representatives of our sponsors, CSC. Cisco, Fortinet, Sanford Technologies Hong Kong Limited, PwC, Macroview, Invest Hong Kong, Data World, Tianxin, and ZDNS. Welcome all our sponsors. As well as checkpoints. Welcome all our sponsors. Thank you so much to our sponsors for your generous support to our APAC DNS Forum 2023. Once all our sponsors' representatives are on stage, we'll take another group photo together. Is it perfect? So let us face the cameras of the mobile phones first. 3, 2, 1. And then it's time for our official camera to take the group photos for our guests on stage. Oh, with our second row guest, please step leftward. Thank you so much. Is it good now? Okay. Please face our official photographer. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Cheers. We hope this moment will be a cherished memory for all of us. Thank you very much to all our guests. Thank you. Please take your seats downstage. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite all guests to be seated as our signing ceremony will begin shortly. Thank you. So it is our great pleasure to welcome to the signing ceremony of the Memorandum of Agreement between HKIRC and Teleinfo. Beijing Teleinfo Network Technology Co. Limited is a wholly owned subsidiary by the China Academy of Information and Communication Technology under the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology of the People's Republic of China. On this auspicious day, both parties of HKIRC and Teleinfo will hold the signing ceremony of the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, towards promoting the growth of the internet industry and fostering economic development in China and Greater Bay Area. This partnership will support the development of e-commerce and leverage the power of the internet industry to act as a booster for this growth. So before starting the keynote presentation of the forum today, we'd like to first invite the representatives of both HKIRC and Teleinfo for the signing ceremony. Now, please join me in inviting Engineer Wilson Wong, CEO from HKIRC, and Heads of International Departments, Mr. Yo Xiaoyu from Teleinfo for the ceremony. Let's put our hands together to welcome Engineer Wilson Wong, as well as Mr. Yo Xiaoyu from Teleinfo. Welcome. Would you please take your seats? And let us also invite our honorable guests to witness the signing ceremony. Let us welcome Professor Sun Dong. Professor Sun, please. And also welcome Mr. Simon Chen, Chairman of HKIRC. Next, may I invite Engineer Tony Wong, JP, GCIO of OGCIO, as well as Dr. Jin Jian, Chairman of Beijing Teleinfo Technology Co. Limited. Welcome all our honorable guests to witness the signing ceremony. Welcome all our guests. Now, would Engineer Wilson Wong from HKIRC and Mr. Yo from Teleinfo please sign the agreements? And now, please exchange the MOU for signing. Congratulations! Let us take some more photos at this memorable moment. Would you please hold the agreement and face our official camera? Ready? As we witness the signing of this agreement, we hope that it will pave the way for successful business relations between China and Hong Kong. Congratulations once again. And thank you all our guests. Please be seated downstage. Thank you so much, all our guests. Please be seated. Thank you. So we look forward to witnessing the positive impact that this partnership will have on the future of e-commerce in the Greater Bay Area. So once again, thank you all for being here today and witnessing this historic moment. Thank you. Now it is time to start the first keynote presentation of the Asia-Pacific Domain Name System Forum, APAC DNS Forum. It features a multitude of topics discussing the role of the DNS from various perspectives, aiming to serve as a platform for participants to network, exchange ideas, and explore collaboration opportunities. In addition to the technical topics such as cybersecurity and emerging technologies, the section will also cover industry trends and business opportunities such as spurring online business growth and digital brand protection, to broader topics like the potential impacts of regulatory, policy, and technological developments on the DNS industry. Our first keynote speaker is Mr. John Crane. Mr. John Crane is the Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of ICANN. In his capacity, he is responsible for leading ICANN organizations' efforts to improve knowledge about the identifiers and helps coordinate and disseminate this information to the Internet community. He is also responsible for oversight of the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority functions. He is also a member of the org executive team. John works with staff and the community to enable and enhance capabilities that improve the overall security, stability, and resiliency of the Internet's identifier systems and associated infrastructures. Without further ado, please welcome Mr. John Crane.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to Hong Kong. I'll start by thanking Mr. Tony Wang from the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer, Mr. Simon Chan from Hong Kong Internet Registration Corporation Limited, and Professor Li Jing, who's the Professor of Electronic Engineering Department at Tsinghua University. So I've been asked to give a keynote, so I will do that. Now, I'm an engineer by trade, so that means I'm going to have white slides with lots of very small font letters. And my colleagues said I couldn't do that, which I thought was very mean. So instead, I'm going to go with colorful backgrounds and big text. So they've given me a bunch of keywords, and I will try and talk to them. So the first one that we have is, of course, what is the DNS, the domain name system? Now, if you're at this conference, I hope you have at least the basic understanding of what it is. If anybody is not here for a domain name system conference, you're in the wrong room. The other conferences are down the road. So the domain name system, as we've heard from previous speakers, and we will hear more about later in the day, is one of the key elements that makes the internet work. Simply put, it's the anchor that we use to find our way on the internet. Now, I see some of my colleagues from the regional internet registries and the IP addressing people here, and they will remind you that it's actually IP addresses that are used to make data move from one place to another. But domain names are the things that we print on business cards. It's the things that we use that are an anchor point that doesn't have to change even when we move services from one ISP to another. So we use the domain name system for pretty much everything we do on the internet. Domain names and the name resolution, and then IP addresses and routing are sort of the thing that makes the internet work. It's extremely boring if you're not in the industry. Most end users do not care and probably should not care about the inner workings of the internet. But without the DNS, we don't get to travel around the internet and find our way to services. So what does ICANN do? ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. We have two basic things that we do. One is we operate something called the IANA functions. IANA is the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. You will notice a pattern. We like acronyms or initializations. We like to not tell people the real words and just spell things out in letters. So I am ICANN's CTO. I have a department that works underneath me called IROS, IROS, Identifier Research Operations and Security, which has the OCTO, which is the Office of the CTO, and the IANA are the two parts of what I do at ICANN. So the IANA is where all the names at the top level and the numbers, IP version 4, IP version 6, autonomous system numbers, enterprise identification numbers, and thousands of other parameter types that make the internet work and the end users have no idea exist are registered. The IANA is the central point, the operational point where the internet identifier systems begin. The other thing that ICANN does is specifically for domain names is we set global policy. So when there is a decision about adding new top-level domains to the ecosystem, that happens in the ICANN forum. It is a multi-stakeholder forum. That is a fancy word for meaning anybody can come to the meetings and have input into the policies. It's made up, if you come to an ICANN meeting, of everything from engineers to government ministers, civil society, researchers. There are so many, and of course industry people. And I see many faces in here that occasionally come to ICANN meetings, so many of you are familiar. But we set those policies as a multi-stakeholder community about how the DNS works, specifically for what we call generic top-level domains. Those are the things that used to be only 6 or 7 of them, with things like .com, etc. But we also hold the IANA side, the operational side, for the country codes. So the country codes, like .hk, also come to us when they want to make technical changes to their infrastructure in the DNS root zone. So in short, that's sort of what ICANN does. We register databases of identifiers, extremely exciting stuff, and then we have policy-making forums that happen around the globe at least 3 times a year, and make the policies. And I think you'll hear more as we talk throughout these couple of days. So a lot of this conference is going to be about what's going to happen in the future, but I want to take us back a little bit. So ICANN this year will have existed in November for 25 years. I have been at ICANN on and off for about 25 years. So I started when I was 4. Yeah, that's a lie. But I've been at ICANN for about most of those 25 years, and I've been involved in the internet industry for a little bit longer than that. But, you know, it sounds like a long time, but in the history of technology, 25 years is nothing. And the domain name system, the first RFCs, request for comments documents that document the protocols, go back 40 years. Also not that long ago. 1983 was an important year for technology. Who here remembers technology in 1983? I don't, because I was only 4 25 years ago, but I may remember some of it. So 40 years is a long time in the internet. So what happened in those 40 years? Well, let's go back 40 years. 1983, the Apple Lisa was a very important milestone in computing. Not because of the computer, but because it had something called a graphical user interface and a mouse, and you could move arrows around your screen and click on things. It was a game changer. And that thing on the bottom there is a Motorola Dynatec 8000X. I had one of those, so maybe I am older than I'm letting on. And they were awesome. This is a telephone without a wire. It was magic. You could take a telephone with you in your car or in your briefcase, not in your pocket. You could not put it in your pocket. It was a little bit too big. So that was 40 years ago. And if you look to today, we have these. right? Everybody is carrying something like this. It has a graphical user interface. Everybody takes it for granted. It has thousands of times more processing power than the Apple Lisa had. This one happens to be made by the same company. It doesn't just do voice. Right? In 1983, we were all really impressed by the fact that you could actually have a voice call and be mobile. You could be in your car or your office or go to a coffee shop and have a phone call. We've come a long way in 40 years. I mean, a really long way. This is like science fiction compared to what we were looking at back in the early 80s. Other things that happened in 1983, a network called the ARPANET moved to a protocol called TCP/IP, the Internet Protocol, also in 1983. It was a good year for technology. There was a lot of change. So what's next? I mean, if we've come this far, where are we going? Well, I'd be lying if I said I knew. We didn't predict we would be where we are today in 1983. Star Trek did. Star Trek did a pretty good job with the technology, but people like me didn't really predict where we would be today. So one of the issues that we're faced with, it's not really a DNS issue at all, although DNS has a role to play. We have about 5 billion users, billion with a B, on the internet today. That might seem like a lot of users, but there are about 8 billion people on the globe. And those sort of between 14 and 65, there's about 6 billion people on the planet. Now, my daughter, who is under 14, would disagree with this because she thinks you start using the internet when you're like 2, which is probably true for kids these days. But that means we're missing at least 1 billion people. There's at least 1 billion people who probably should have access to the ecosystem that we all work in and enjoy, and the information that we all have access to, and they don't. So we're not done, not by a long way. Many of those people are either in the global south or here in Asia, Latin America. They are not in the traditional place where much of the internet was built. They're not in the United States or North America, and they're not in Europe. Right? So most of these people are actually in different places. So 55% of the website content this year, found some statistics on the internet. You can find all kinds of information on the internet. About 55% of the content is written in the English language. But only 26% of the users are actually native English speakers. So that might be a detriment to people getting access to the internet. What do we do about that? How do we change the ecosystem to use languages and scripts that people who don't speak English natively or who struggle with English can use the internet? Now, content has been pretty much solved. You can put content on websites, etc., in pretty much any script. 45% of it is not in the English language. It may be in ASCII script still, but there's also content in other scripts and languages of Chinese, Thai, many of the African and Indian languages. So the content exists. You can't actually, in this day and age, do everything on the internet using those identifiers. Remember I talked about ICANN being the place where we do things about identifiers. So we're not really a content shop. We're about the roads, the ways you get to places. We're about those identifier systems. Now today you can register a name in a different script. We've figured that out. It works. Inside the DNS, it is still ASCII, but we have ways of transliterating from an ASCII domain name to a name in other scripts that can be displayed in your browser and you can type in your browser. So that is working, but we don't have many of them. The majority of domain names today are still in ASCII using what looks like the English language. That probably needs to change as we go ahead. We probably need more identifiers in other scripts so that people can use their native language to find their way around the internet. Now, if you're in this room, you're probably sitting here thinking, well, you know, I've done fine with a QWERTY keyboard and English, but you're not the audience for this, right? We're not the people who are having difficulty connecting to the internet. We are not part of that 1 or maybe 2 billion people who are not able to access. So this is one of the things that's on ICANN's mind, is how do we internationalize the identifier systems? And the ones that people use, the ones that are human readable, are not IPv6 addresses. Those can't even be read by engineers anymore. They're domain names. So can we internationalize the domain name system? And this has been going on for quite some time. The answer to that is yes. But it's no good if we can't use those domain names. So if you've heard of the term universal acceptance, it's a term we hear in the ICANN world quite a bit. This is about making sure that names that are different to what everybody's used to, so it's not just different scripts, it's actually things like longer domain names. There was a time even in the early 2000s, when if your top-level domain was more than 3 characters, it seemed that half of the websites and services on the internet would not accept it. So there's the string length, how long a TLD can be. That's a lot better now than it was before, but there are still problems with that. But it's especially the different character sets. And it's not about web browsers. Yes, web browsers matter. Who here still uses email, talking about old technology? Like, I still use email because my work makes me. You know, email needs to work in other scripts. Right? If you want people to use the internet in their own language, then they need to be able to not only write the email, but also the email address in their own script. FTP, other services, all the applications and all the services we use on the internet at some point need to be agnostic to the script being used. And we have quite a lot of work going forward ahead of us to actually work on that. And ICANN's very active with that. But there's also a lot of people in this region who are very active on universal acceptance. Because this and many places in the global south are the places that have these other languages and these other scripts. So it's important to them. And remember, language is important, not just as an engineer, but as human beings, as societies. Languages are what binds cultures together. So, you know, for those that are working in government and other areas where you worry about culture, the use of your local language, your local dialects, and your local scripts is an important thing. You know, there are a lot of places in the world where they're worrying about the loss of local languages. And some look at things like the internet as part of the issue that is pushing that loss of language, because on the internet, everything still seems to be mostly in English. So this is a big issue for us and will be going forward. Challenges. Ooh, that's a hard word. There are no challenges, there are just opportunities. At least that's always my approach to it. Every time I see a challenge, I look for the opportunity. But there are many. Security. Anybody here thinks that they are completely safe when they are on the internet? I see no hands. That's probably good. If you've read the news at any point in the last 5 minutes, you will have read something, and if you're reading the news while I'm talking, come talk to me afterwards. Online security, and this isn't just about domain names, this is about the users using the internet for their day-to-day work, is a real problem. The internet reflects society. And in case you hadn't noticed, there are a lot of bad people in society. And they like to take your money or your data, and they like to victimize people. So we have security issues. And as we bring new people online, we're going to need to educate them about the risks of using the internet. It's not all good. Right? The internet is a great force for good. It really is. And I wouldn't work at ICANN if I didn't believe that with all my heart, that it's a really good thing that really helps society. But we have security issues. We have bad people using the internet. Emerging technologies. Every 5 minutes, there seems to be a new buzzword, a new technology that is going to change the world for everybody for the better. And somebody will be reaching out to you saying, here's this new thing, and you should all be on board because you're going to miss the boat. It's always been thus. It was DNS security and cyber security. We went through a phase where it was cyber everything. They would put the word cyber in front of any issue that was just an issue that we had everywhere else in the world. We even have cyber trucks these days. It's like everything is cyber. But most of these technologies, as they arise, there's a lot of hype. There is a lot of conjecture. There are people selling these technologies who, this may be shocking to you, I know, but they are doing it purely for the money. So that they may not always be 100% truthful with you about what these technologies are. So specifically within ICANN, in the group that I run where we do research, we spend a lot of time looking at emerging technologies. One of the latest things is, of course, blockchains. Blockchains are great, they have their purpose. And now we have things called blockchain naming systems. So instead of a DNS name, you can have a blockchain name. Some of them are really cool. Some of the technology is really fascinating and it's really cool. The issue with most of these is they are very new and they may have great technology, but they don't yet have the other part that ICANN was set up to do. They don't yet have the policies in place. So they don't know how to deal with the bad guys. They don't yet know how to deal with intellectual property. All of the things that the industry has spent the last, more than 25 years, because many of these were issues prior to ICANN, trying to figure out, have still not been figured out in some of these emerging technologies. They also have scaling issues. I had breakfast with some folks doing one of these namespaces, and I asked them, it's like, how are you going to scale? And they said, well, we can scale. We've got tens of thousands of customers. And I said, well, how are you going to scale to 5 billion? And they scratched their heads. Now, some of them may well do it. When you start using things like blockchain and things that have a high computational cost, that generally doesn't scale to global size because it's a massive power consumption and a massive computational cost. The good thing about the DNS, and one of the things that made it successful, was its simplicity. It's based on UDP. single packet out, single packet back. As soon as you go to TCP and you have to start doing multiple packets back and forth, the computation cost goes up, so scaling becomes a problem. This is not a new problem. This is not a problem specific to some of the latest technologies. We at ICANN, and even before ICANN, have been having these discussions with people for decades. So if you want something to scale at the level that the internet scales, it has to have a certain level of simplicity, and it has to have low overhead costs on computation and power. There are many more emerging technologies, and I'm sure that next week there will be a new buzzword and somebody will come and sell you something. All of these emerging technologies are fantastic opportunities, and they all come with scales. The other one that you will have heard lately, I don't know, has anybody heard of this thing called AI? Like, I've heard it's really good. So artificial intelligence, a specific form of artificial intelligence is machine learning. And there's a lot of new machine learning stuff out there, and it's really, really cool. So machine learning and the DNS. So one of the questions I get a lot is, how is, well, people say AI, I say machine learning. How is it going to affect the DNS? And I sat and I thought long and hard about this. And then I asked ChatGPT, because it was much easier. And it was pretty good. It was pretty accurate. I was like, oh, this machine learning stuff's pretty cool. So if you ask ChatGPT how machine learning will affect the DNS, you won't see many surprises. The bad guys are going to use it to make better algorithms and better fish. The good guys are going to use that to make better security protocols and ways of identifying fish. We are probably going to use machine learning algorithms to figure out which are the best names to buy and sell. Right? If you're in the business of buying and selling domain names, then machine learning is, a good way of actually figuring out which strings. The bad guys will use exactly the same thing to figure out which names they can use for scams. We might use machine learning to figure out how to better use caching algorithms. In the DNS, a lot of what we do is remembering names, caching names. Can we build better caching algorithms using machine learning? Now, I don't know, but ChatGPT tells me that's a possibility. So I'm going to trust the computer here. So, just because it's something that you read in the newspaper every day doesn't mean it's not a real thing, and it does not have a lot of opportunities. Machine learning has a lot of opportunities. We use it in our research, especially around looking at ways that you can identify and combat DNS abuse, which we will talk about on later panels. And we're using machine learning there. The problem with machine learning is, of course, it's expensive. Anybody that's tried buying GPUs lately knows how expensive they are, and we know that the big guys have bought them all. I mean, they're spending like billions of dollars on buying GPU units, so it's hard to find. But it's interesting. So emerging technologies, some of it is hype, some of it is fantastic, and if you want to know a lot more about it, go ask ChatGPT or one of the other machine learning. It's very good for writing hip-hop songs about the DNS. We've got one of those. I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing. And it's really good for answering really esoteric questions like, what will machine learning mean for the DNS? So it's actually pretty cool. And the last one is, of course, this issue about getting people online and whether or not we can make the internet work in their own scripts. This is a pretty big one for ICANN because it is actually one of the few things that's actually about identifiers. Right? We focus on identifiers. We don't focus on anything remotely sexy on the internet. No content, a lot of the really cool technologies. We don't focus on that, but we do focus on identifiers. So, can we solve this problem? I'm not sure. I will ask ChatGPT after this. Maybe it knows the answer. So with that, I think I'm at my time. Welcome everybody to this forum. Please do the most important thing of every conference, and that's not listen to people like me. It's go out for the coffees, shake hands, meet people in the industry, say hello to everybody, and have a good time. And thank you very much, everybody local and everybody who came to Hong Kong, and thank you very much to our local hosts for providing this great forum for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John Crane, for your very insightful keynote speech. We will now proceed to the second keynote speech today. We are very honored to invite Professor Li Xing from Tsinghua University for his keynote speech. Professor Li is from the Electronic Engineering Department at Tsinghua University. He is also the Deputy Director of the China Education and Research Network Center, Jonathan B. Postal Service Awards Nomination Committee member, and the Internet Hall of Fame Advisory Board member. Professor Li's research activities and interests are in the areas of signal processing, multimedia communication, and computer networks. He has published more than 300 papers in his research areas. So without further ado, let's pass the floor to Professor Li, please.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And thanks for the leaders and the guests and the experts. And this is my talk. It's some kind of random talk because originally I'm in the area of signal processing because I'm EE. And then later, actually I spent 8 years in the United States. And by that time, internet grew up. It's from 83 to 91, last century. When I back to Tsinghua University in 1991, there is no internet, so I shouted. And then later, when the China Education Research Network started, I joined, and actually that's the thing I'm working until now. So today's topic, my title is Address Names and Back to the Future. I will tell you what's the future. Well, not really the crystal ball, but my feelings. Okay, this is the outline. And the first thing, actually, when we talk about domain names, that's the parameters. And then before that, I review a little bit of the history by my understanding. The first thing is for internet, there is no blueprints, but there are design principles and the building blocks. And the DNS is one of the most important building blocks. So in the 1970s, that's NCP, that's ARPANET technology. And the 80s, that's TCP/IP. Actually, it's IPv4. And 80s, something like that, that's DNS and the BGP, especially BGP4. And then later, that's www. And in the year 2010, because of the Snowden, then security is the most important thing. That's HTTPS and the TLS, whatever things associated with DNSSEC, RPK, all those kind of things. The question is, how about this decade? We are 23 already, so we have only 7 years left. What's the killing technology for that? Actually, that's the thing. Maybe IPv6, I don't know. Maybe AI, I don't know. So that's a question. Then back to the parameters. Actually, we have the natural parameters, for example, the locations and the time. And the base, actually, for the IT people or telecommunication, we manage the spectrums. That's very important for 3G, 4G, 5G, that's spectrum. However, if we're in physics or electronic engineering, actually it's the Fourier transform of the times, okay. However, when we get into the internet age, we have many, many parameters. In the link layer, that's MAC address, 48 bits. And in the IP layer, we have atomic numbers and the IP addresses, IPv4 and IPv6. And then we have the protocol parameters like TCP, that's 6, and the UDP, that's 17, and others. By the way, there in total is 256, that's 8 bits. And also we have the port numbers. For example, the HTTP, it's 8, and the HTTPS, it's 443, all those kind of things. And the DNS, the UDP, 53. And then actually we have the domain names. And above domain names, actually that's URLs, all those kind of things. Then because, again, I'm a professor, we talk about the method in between those kind of parameters. There's a popular saying said any problem in computer science can be solved with another layer of interaction. So actually we are working on interactions, and the ARP and the neighbor discovery as mapping whatever V4 and V6 address to MAC address. And because lack of the IPv4 address, we have NAT44. And actually I'm working on translation between V4 and V6, so NAT64, and with DNS64. And then actually the domain names, DNS is mapping between names and address. There are many, many other things, but that's the thing. So actually, if something new, then it's related to interaction or mapping. Then actually the names, they are for, okay, this is the right room, so I don't need to repeat. And however, domain names gets more and more important. This one actually I borrowed from Jeff Houston from APNIC, because originally address is very, very important, IP address, because it's end-to-end address transparency. However, servers, we have CDNs, and the clients, there are lots of nets, and the name is unique. That's very, very important. So you are working in a very important area, like I can. And unfortunately, IPv6, even I'm a big fan for IPv6. IPv6 cannot restore the original end-to-end model, never. History, okay, sometimes repeats, but it's not easy to back. Okay, so that's the illustration for the concept I just mentioned. Originally, end-to-end, the servers has the unique IP address, and the clients has the unique IP address, however, the CDN and the NATs. If we think deeper, there are some enemies for, not enemies, but something actually for interaction or whatever thing, you can do things different. Actually, URL is something, right? And the URL, actually, you can categorize to the person owned, actually associated with domain names. However, some URL with the providers, for example, alice@gmail.com. And the user service specific, that's the big giants in the United States. For example, Google or Facebook, actually they provide accounts and under their control. I don't like that idea. And in the mainland China, that's like WeChat or those kind of things. It's not good. That's some kind of monopoly or something. And that's related to other things. However, when we're dealing with domain name or some kind of thing, we need to keep those kind of things in mind, based on my idea. Then, okay, again, challenges, that's the opportunities. I believe there's something, 3, okay, internet fragmentation and AI, ChatGPT. And another thing is I like to say impossible triangle. Okay, actually in the IGF area or whatever internet area, people talk about internet fragmentation for a while. There is a famous IGF white paper by the father of internet, Windsurf and others. Actually, in that paper, they mention the technical fragmentation, governmental fragmentation, commercial fragmentations. And recently, actually, I asked ChatGPT, how about AI? So ChatGPT summarized the AI fragmentation like this. There's something I like to mention. For technical fragmentation, Windsurf actually mentioned two things. One is the incompatibility between IPv4 and IPv6. Actually, if, say, my major contribution, actually, I work on stateless IPv4, IPv6 translation in IETF. That's the major thing I did, but not for today's talk. Also, Windsurf said the domain names. Actually, IDN, that's good, very good. However, if you think somebody used the IDN, another script, to present something and you don't know that language, then you're in trouble. That's another side of the IDN problem. Another thing is the alternative, the roots, all those kind of things. People set up non-unique root servers, or those kind of things. And the commercial, I just mentioned the big giants like Google, Facebook, they maintain the things. And because ChatGPT mentioned computational ability, like just mentioned, the GPU is very expensive. And also algorithm and the data, some kind of expires. So that's very serious. And the regulations. And the ChatGPT, actually, I believe, my personal opinion, ChatGPT at least can compare with the invention of the TCP/IP. That's big, good or bad. However, that's the reality. It's already. So that's the emergent technology thing. That's scary. Okay, and so if you really believe the evolution, then that's really scary based on this cartoon. However, I believe there are two things that's really challenge the internet. Because one thing is like the ChatGPT, those kind of giants, they control, and that's the centralization things. And in principle, internet is decentralized or distributed, so that's a big challenge. Another thing is the trust. Actually, for ChatGPT, sometimes the answer is very smart, but sometimes it's just lying. How can you dealing with that? And the trust is the thing. Currently, it's no problem. Without ChatGPT, actually, if the domain names is signed by the trust anchor, you can trust that that's the DNS, HTTPS. However, for OpenAI ChatGPT, if it's lying, then you don't know. Can internet help to improve this? I don't know, but that's something. And so the centralization by the Paul Barron from RAND, they categorize the structure, the tree structure, centralized, the decentralized, and the distributed. And the internet actually is distributed. And the trust model, like we have the hierarchical, we have centralized, that's the Kerberos, and first time trust, that's SSH. And the DNS X500 is hierarchical web of trust, it's BGP or PGP. And the forest, that's C, and blockchain or whatever things, the trust. And actually the problem is internet is because of the requirements of the trust, actually it's moved from distributed to some kind of centralized, because like for routing, BGP is meshed. However, RPK introduced 5 trust anchors. That's the problem. And for the DNS, it's the hierarchical structure. There are the roots, and the DNSSEC as enhances. And HTTPS, it seems better as forest structure. And then, actually, that's my idea. I don't know it's good or right. I'm writing papers, but not finished. I believe in internet, there are impossible triangle. You know, in many areas, they are impossible triangle. But for internet, I believe resilience, which is related to distributed and controllable, the government want to control, big giants want to control. and trustable. There are three things. You can satisfy two, but not three in all. For example, if you want controllable and trustable, that's the tree structure, that's no problem. If you want resilience and trustable, probably blockchain can help. And if you want controllable and resilience, then the traditional backup things. However, because sometimes the network broken and you lost the trustable ability. So that's something. I'm writing a paper, not finished. Anyway, let's mention the things. Back to the Future. Actually, I really loved this movie, Back to the Future, when I was in the United States. And the thing I liked as the second one, because, okay, there are the alternative things. And if you want to restore things, you have to back to 1955, which is the story happened. And back to, for the internet, actually, now we are in the situation of global trust anchor things. It's some kind of centralized. And so actually, I mean, Back to the Future is back to the internet. If we recall, what's the internet? That's the network of networks. So my idea is we should keep a single global internet. Plus, if subset of the network can work without problems because of the whatever the political or national disaster things. However, because of the domain names and the trust anchors or those kinds of things make these things difficult. Probably that's the research directions. Okay, so concluding remarks. The names. Okay, originally, actually this figure is I used for IPv6. However, now I modified to names. Originally, name is for servers. Then, because mobile internet is name for people. And we are thinking the name for Internet of Things. However, I believe and strongly believe the name is for robots. Okay, so that's the thing. We need to trust those kind of robots, and we have to make the name trustable. However, sometimes if in this room and the internet cut off, we still need to trust in this room whatever the robot and the human beings. So the DNS should be distributed and trustable, but we have to maintain the uniqueness of the names. I believe that's very, very important. Even people talk about the mirror of the Anikas or whatever names. Actually, that part can be distributed, but uniqueness is the most important. And one more thing, okay, talk about AI, the great tuning. Answer the anchorman of the BBC 70 years ago. The question is, who was learned? You are the machine, and the Turing said, well, I suppose we both were. That's very smart. I believe 50 years ago, there is ARPANET. Now it's AI, and we need to work on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lee, for your inspiring speech. So we have just witnessed two powerful keynote speeches from Mr. John and Professor Lee. We thank them for providing us with valuable insights. So in the morning section today, we are going to have in-depth discussions on big data applications and the digital economy. May I invite our helpers to please help set up the stage for the coming panel discussion. Thank you. So we will now proceed to the high-level opening panel discussion. In this section, we will discuss challenges and opportunities in the future of big data applications. As the digital economy evolves, big data applications become increasingly crucial. Despite the emergence of new technologies like quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and blockchain, the domain name system DNS remains highly relevant. So there are significant opportunities for innovation and growth in this field by staying up to date and leveraging new trends and technologies to drive the digital economy forward. We welcome questions from the audience and encourage interaction for this section. As anytime if you have a question, you don't have to wait until the Q&A segments to ask the questions. Whether you are on-site or participating virtually, feel free to sign into Zoom and type your questions into the Q&A pod. When you registered to attend the forum, you'd have received the Zoom link for the section on email. So just retrieve the link from there. Thank you. So before inviting our panelists on stage, I would like to introduce our panel moderator as well as our panelists to you. First of all, let me introduce you. Our panel moderator. It's our great pleasure to have Engineer Alan Young, JP. Engineer Alan has extensive experience in the areas of smart city, big data, information technology, cybersecurity, investments, corporate and business development, science park development, and government affairs. Engineer Alan is a leader in Hong Kong's information technology and communication industry. He has contributed a lot in promoting and developing the innovation and technology industry in Hong Kong and the region. He has established Hong Kong Business Angel Network, Greater Bay Area International Information Technology Association, and Institutes of Big Data Governance. So in the coming section, we are going to invite our panel moderator on stage first. We are pleased to invite Engineer Alan Young, JP, to join us on stage now. Welcome, Engineer Alan Young. And then may I invite our panelists. We have Mr. Samuel Ho, CEO of Nova Credits Limited. He has extensive experience in leading credit bureau, consumer banking, and in-depth understanding with consumer credit life cycle. Let's welcome Samuel. Ms. Selina Lau, Chief Executive of Hong Kong Federation of Insurers, which represents 135 insurance companies in Hong Kong and is promoting the use of technology in the industry through spearheading a number of industry-wide InsurTech initiatives and its 2 InsurTech task forces. Welcome, Selina. Next, may I invite Mr. Henry Ma, Executive Vice President, Chief Information Officer of WeBank, and he oversees the strategic planning and development of fintech business at WeBank. Prior to WeBank, Henry has served as General Manager at Ping An Technology Co. Limited. Prior to that, Henry had lived and worked in Silicon Valley for more than 10 years. Welcome, Henry. Last but not least, may I invite Mr. Horace Tan, Head of Data of UMP Healthcare Innov Center. The center aims to support the development of advanced medical application technology and for medical experts to exchange scientific research knowledge and experience. Welcome, Horace. I will now hand the floor to the moderator for the section. Engineer Young, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. So I would be very delighted to chair this session. We talk about how data can help drive the digital economy. Before we start the panel, I would like to give a few slides just to set the stage. The slide might be a little bit small to see. But anyway, I think we have entered into a very exciting world where data is now the new oil. And we have seen the development of data economy for a number of years already. And because of such importance, we have established a
NGO, the Institute of Big Data Governance, where the Institute helps to build the best practices and also certification for data industry to flourish. So the two major works of the Institute, one is to establish the best practices, and two is to set up a scheme where company can be certified when they reach certain standards. At the meeting of G20 last year, there is a digital economy working group, and they have come up with a number of discussions and conclusions during the working group. I'd like to share some of the observations from that working group to set the stage for our panel discussion. First of all, they talk about data has been surged in astonishing rates, even during the pandemic years. And that's not the end, that's only the beginning of such phenomena. And second, if we can harness the data well, it can actually promote a lot of our economic development, also build a better society for human beings. And among US, China, and EU, the world's three largest economies, they actually dominate a lot of the digital economy. Nonetheless, they are divergent in terms of the way they see how data are being governed. And so there is a big call for everyone to jointly work together towards a standardized, a unified, and also a consented way of data governance globally. And that's why we are here today. And I will be very pleased to have 4 panel speakers joining me at the panel who have, each of them represent an industry that owns a lot of data that concerns every one of you. So we have Samuel Ho. He is with a credit rating for people. We have Selena Lau, and she is looking at the industry of insurance. And we have Henry Ma, and he is with a bank, and not just a regular bank, but digital bank. And finally, we have Horace, and he is with healthcare. So all of them represent a lot of information that interlink with everyone's daily lives. So let me begin with the speakers with my first question, because each of them represent a very key industry. So my first question to each of them would be to think through the next few years, how data is going to shape their industry. May I begin with Samuel?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alan. So I'm not the tech savvy, right? So I'm doing the data business. So I would like to share with all of you some of my experience in the past. And as said, this is not a crystal ball. Just my experience, what I expected in the next few years, for example. I think you may all know in the past few years, Hong Kong has a, intensive integration in GBA, as well as the mainland China. And you can see China as well, right, has been actively engaging in OBOR. Maybe some of the countries you may know, right, especially in the trade and economics development. But despite those breakthroughs in so many areas, you can see one distinct area seems to be highly lagging behind. It's about data connectivity between those, all the countries. I would say, for example, for investment, investment is one thing. You can see in the past, the China government, you may see a lot of national enterprise to invest into other countries. But in the last 2 years, you can see there's an increasing trend for the medium-sized private company to invest in, especially in Middle East, in ASEAN countries. To be honest, they have a business risk. So how to mitigate the business risk? You have to do a lot of field works, especially business intelligence information from company side or from the countries. So I think in the next few years, especially for the investor from China, right? They need a lot of data, in particularly for the due diligence, and even though for the financing as well. That's why in the coming maybe 3 or 5 years, that is a good timing for the countries, especially for ASEAN and let's say for the all OBOR countries. They have take this time to align or to coordinate together to make some of standardization of data connectivities, especially on the compliance and control. That will be benefit to all of us. I will say there will be a trend because I learned from some of the ASEAN countries. They also started to discuss about that, and that is my view.
Thank you, Samuel. Selena?
Thanks, Alan. Samuel said that he's not tech savvy, so I'm an outsider for the technology. But fortunately, I'm working for the Federation of Insurers, which is really trying to drive technology development to help our business. From my perspective as representing all the insurance companies, one of the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, described us as the original big data industry. Imagine how many data we are in process with. We got health data, we've got finance data, we've got tons of data, even lifestyle. We know where you travel, when you travel. So this kind of data are helping us to do a lot of analytics. In the old days, we are actually managing data to price our products, to develop our products, to design our products, and to process claims. So this is how we work. But in the old days, we only rely on the reinsurers' data. Very, very limited and very, very silo. But now we have new tools, new device. We've got telematics, we've got IoT, we've got wearables. We know more about our clients. We also have new source of data. We've got social media, we've got your online payment information as well. And we got new insights. We know how people work, their lifestyle, when they work out and all this. So all this information come down will be very, very helpful for us. To do through data analytics, we know more about our clients. We know more about their intention or what they want to achieve in their life. We can do a lot more. And like what Samuel said, it's about cross-border data as well. The central government has designated Hong Kong to be the risk management center for the nation. So we have a very big role to play in terms of risk management, not only for the nation, also for the region as well. And data come to play a very important role. So we're looking forward to having more cross-border data to help us to do better analytics and risk management. The MOU signed between the ITIB and the CAC is very helpful. It's a very, very positive way forward. And we look forward to having more details of the framework. Professor Sun was telling us to have more innovative ideas about how we can use this data and leverage this data. So I think data, not only in Hong Kong, will help us shape the future. Now I want to talk about one thing that is coming to our life very often, is our green and ESG, right? So for green and ESG, we are particularly in need of tons of data. Climate change, geographic data. So with more collaboration and with cross-border interconnectivity, we will be able to get a better view on how to price risk through data. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you. Henry.
Thank you, Alan. First of all, I'm very, very much honored to attend the meeting today on behalf of WeBank. And I'm a tech guy, so talking about tech, right? And if you talk about the importance of data, I think in recent years, it's a very hot topic. I don't think there's any argument about like how important data is. But as a matter of fact, it's not really how you can make use of data, how you can generate values out of data. It's really the supply of data that's really making a challenge for every industries, and in fact for financial industries in particular. So it's not really well, as a digital bank, right, we operate online, we are a big consumer of data. But as a matter of fact, the supply of data is really constrained, is a big constraint for the further development of the industry as well. So in terms of like solving the supply side problems, I think there are two very important perspectives that we have to look at. First of all, digital transformation of the various industries. I mean, we talk about digital transformation a lot, but if you look at traditional businesses, how digital are they, right? I mean, we still have very limited access to data, as a matter of fact. And at the same time, we see regulations also tightening all across the world. Like in China, in 2021, we have the Personal Information Protection Law, right? It's actually creating more and more hurdles in terms of data collaboration. So how do we actually solve the topic to collaborate around data is another very important issue that we have to address. So that's why, like the other trend, and then I think, well, first of all, the continual digital transformation of the various industries is very important. But at the same time, how do we address the issue around data collaboration using latest technology around like federated learning, around privacy preserving computing? I think these are the very important trends that we have to look into. So,
okay, thank you. Horace?
Yeah, thank you, Henry. So this is Horace. I'm from the healthcare and also the supervising the data team. So I can talk more about the big data application in the healthcare, what we can foresee in the upcoming few years. And actually, first of all, we can see the rapid developments of the IoT devices and also the edge computing technology. So more and more data will come, just like the Selena mentioned. So the customer will actively monitor their health status and further contribute their health data, such as lifestyle or body measurements, etc. So I think the second is more and more application to facilitate some AI diagnostics or some early detection techniques, which is going to improve the operational efficiency of the healthcare group, and also to give the second opinion to the doctors in the digital forms. And third is the preventive medicine, which is more on the preventive, personalized prevention and treatment. Based on the individual's genetic makeup and also the other factors to design a more targeted treatment plan based on the individual needs. And the fourth, we can leverage the large language models and generative AI to maybe develop the new drugs and also to simulate the clinical trials and also create the synthetic data for the research purposes. And the large language model can be also adopted to improve the existing patient engagement for the chatbots and etc. So that's we can see the high potential for the big data applications from the healthcare perspective.
Thank you, Horace. As you can all see, data are actually beginning to shape the new industry application-wise. So Horace just talked about healthcare. From what we are being treated when you have certain disease to preventive medicine. So you are not being treated when you have some problem. And back to the banks and to the insurance and to the credit industry, you will get more personalized services rather than you get one size fits all type of services in the future. Of course, there are some constraints that lack of standardization, some of the industry, some of the data are still being locked up and so forth, that are waiting for further development from the industry. And that's why we talk about we need better governance, we need better structure, we need better unified across the board in terms of government working together. So if we want to take a little bit to the day-to-day understanding, because we talk about big data, we talk about how they can help in the big picture. If I like to cite one example, which is closer to everyday's livelihoods of everyone in the room. Maybe each of you can cite one example how data is being used, and that would be helpful for everyone. Maybe we can back again and start with Samuel.
Okay, let me start. I may not share with you because I am doing the credit bureau business in Hong Kong. So I think everyone know I have all the populations of Hong Kong people about their lending behavior. But today I will not share about that. I share with you one of my experience in the last year. My company signed a business information sharing contract with Uzbekistan. Very cool countries, right? You may never visit this country before, right? And another contract we signed with Philippines about business information and personal credit information sharing. So I can say before that, right? We talked to some of businessmen in Hong Kong. As you know how many people they are going to invest into Uzbekistan? How many? Only 2 cases in the last year. We talked to them, why you eventually give up. The give up ratio is very high. It's 95% of Hong Kong businessmen eventually give up to invest into Uzbekistan. Because they told me, they don't have any reliable business information about, the countries, about the company they want to invest, any credit risk, and all kinds. Even though very basic informations for the due diligence they don't have. So that's why, right? When you facilitate the trade or investment growing, I think both countries, they have to work together to make it happen. That is the key. Even for Philippines, I think you're all very familiar of Philippines scenario, but I give you the number. 65% of Hong Kong businessmen eventually give up their investment in Philippines as well. So it is very, very high. So if you have a better information sharing, so I think you have better business decision and eventually benefit to both countries. That's my sharing with all of you.
That's very important. Having risk is not a problem, but not knowing what the risk is a big problem.
Yeah, indeed.
Elena?
Talking about risk, I will go back to my own industry, insurance. So our business is to handle claims, to settle claims, the rightful claims. But do you know that the fraudsters, there are so many insurance fraud happening in around the world. Do you know what is the rate? If I tell you, every $100 we pay out, our industry pay out, $10 to $15 go to the fraudsters. Imagine that. So that doesn't mean that the insurance industry is suffering a fraud problem. It's all of us who are paying an insurance premium into a pool because we're all sharing that risk. So that's why we, at the Federation, we set up an insurance fraud prevention claims database 5 years ago to detect fraud through data analytics. So what we do is that we collect all the insurance companies together. Whenever there are insurance claims, we transfer that data into a centralized database. And then also with the policy data, and then the AI, the machine learning will help us to detect fraud, possible fraud. It's not defined as fraud, it's suspicions alert. So when we see the score, the machine come up with, the claims handler, who are very experienced, will decide whether we should put further effort into investigating such fraud. So, well, all insurers, big and small, have this kind of different level of fraud detection mechanism within their organization. But coming together, working together, makes it more powerful. Because fraudsters nowadays are very sophisticated, we can think of one way to plug such a loophole, then they come up with the second one. So that's why collating all the data together and doing analytics through machine learning is very important for us. And now we have launched 2 lines of business, multi-line of business and half lines of business, which relate to a lot of people. Because of the governance and because of the regulation restrictions, we're still in the learning mode. Because in Hong Kong, we are not allowed to use historical data. We can only accumulate data for future analytics use. So now we're still in the learning mode. Hopefully, by collating all the data together, building this community, we'll be able to detect fraud and better protect the rightful interests of all policyholders. So this is the example I'm going to quote, Alan.
Can I follow up with
please.
another question? Would the use of big data enhance the speed of payment?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I think it is the fair treatment of our customers, right? Because we're a highly regulated industry, we have to make sure that the process is streamlined and helpful. So if we, through this data analytics, we can rule out the possibility of fraud, we can process it quicker. And I think the powerful is not only through this system, also through the automated system within the insurers. We're doing the claims processing much quicker than before. So maybe within days, within hours, you will be able to get payouts. So these are all credit to the use of data and automation.
That's good news indeed.
Yeah.
How about Henry?
Well, as a digital bank, our day-to-day operation is all about data. It's all about data. So as of today, we are already serving more than 360 million customers in China, more than 1.4 million MSME, micro SMEs in China, all without a branch, without a physical branch. So it's all about data. And we processed about, in last year, 844 million transactions in a single day. Right? So this is the kind of scale that we're looking at, the kind of data that we have to process. So lots of real-life examples about how we use data. Right? For example, when we establish credit facilities for MSME, we don't really ask for collateral. We look at how much taxes they pay, what's on their account receivables, what's on their account payables, their inventory, the energy consumption data, all that. And it's based on all these data, we offer them a line of credit. I mean, that's all we do, right? And if you talk about like how we acquire customers, I mean, we have to do online ads, right? We have to understand the behavioral pattern of our business owners. So when we post the ad to a user, we know that, hey, at least he's a potential business owner. Otherwise, if you post it to like a housewife, it would be a total waste of your advertisement dollar, right? So these are how we use data. And in fact, down the road, I think we see a lot of potential around large language model as well, right? Adding to that, like if you can do further analysis on those non-structured data around company annual reports, like any citations from any authorities, and even like on the news, whether there's some negative press about certain customers that we serve, we have better understanding of the day-to-day operational situation of the companies, and we understand the credit behavior more. So this is how we leverage data as a core competency of our own business.
Can I follow up a question with you? How do you compare the way you model the new way of using data versus with the collateral in terms of bad debt rate?
The NPL rate for us, as published in our annual report last year, is only 1.4%. Right. I mean, if you're in the financial business, if you're in banking, you know that like probably the industry average is around 2%. But that's talking about secure loan plus unsecured loan, and we all we do is unsecured lending, right? So you can tell, like based on the kind of the data techniques and the data modeling kind of mechanism that we do underwriting, we actually achieve even better performance than traditional
amazing.
Banking.
So you definitely changed the way new banking is being done. Okay,
I would think
back
so.
to Horace. Can you give us one close to the heart example of using of data?
Yeah, sure. So one of the use case in the healthcare should be like the patients 360, like the customers 360 in the banking. So it's more like to gather and consolidate all the data source from different kinds of system and also the IoT devices, so that to provide real-time monitoring to predict the health status and also to increase the efficiency of the diagnosis. So it would be I think one of the case to contribute to public health and also and also in the future use case or future developments of this platform can be empowered by the AI and other big data technologies like the large language model to enhance the existing language model, machine learning model, etc.
Great. I think that's also changing the way we are being treated in the future. A better health for everyone. So let me perhaps ask individually a separate, different question. For Samuel, I know you have obtained the cross-border data from the agencies from the mainland to allow data from mainland to share with Hong Kong. So the big congratulations. I think you are one of the few who have passed all the regulatory approvals. So how important is this to your business in terms of having such cross-boundary data flow from mainland China to Hong Kong?
Let me share with some of number to you. I think last year it is not last year, average per year there's about more than 1 million mainlander open a bank account in Hong Kong, including some of lending, investment, and all kinds. That is only for banking, not even investment, insurance and security business. So when you because of the population in Hong Kong is 7 million, the market is small, right? The bank industry is highly considering to open up, especially the business in GBA. So. You can imagine, right? You have to get the data to do the KYC and the credit assessment. So that is a key. That's why we obtained the permission from the China government, to transfer some of key and very important data for the banks to do the KYC and the credit assessment. And it allows the banks, especially, mitigate the risk. Very simple. For example, you give a credit card, you create a SME loans, even you offer some of a wealth management products. You have to do some, KYC due diligence as well. So in the past, the banks, even I worked for the banks for a long time, and they do a lot of manual works, check the mainland data from website. But the common names in China is very big. If your name is very simple, right? You have a 1,000 of similar names in your website, so meaningless. So now we got the official data from the government and some of authorities and help the banks to do these works. And I would say they would save a lot of time. My experience with one bank, they said they save time from 4 days due diligence to only 30 minutes. That is the one. And then the second one is our data source is from golden source. It's a legitimate source, not from web scraping informations. Very reliable and very trustful. You can, to be honest, you can put in the file, and even Hong Kong MA go to your office to check. You have to prove. So that is a key. I see that because the trend is going up, especially the money lenders in Hong Kong, they want to have the banking business. I will see maybe next year there will be a triple and even 400% increasing of number of people to open account in Hong Kong. So that is why we do this kind of business.
That's great. I think that Hong Kong's business people are doing international business, and half of them are dealing with mainland companies. And with this credit in source of information, golden source of information, that's definitely a big help in minimizing such business risk, as you mentioned earlier, about why not trading with other countries who have little credit informations. Selena, you are dealing with a very highly regulated industry. Insurance is one of them, banking is another. And so the industry, in fact, has been trying very hard to regulate your own self. And so that is on top of law and regulations. So there is some sort of self-regulated action going on. And so how do you see this is important to your industry in terms of having a self-regulated action within insurance?
You're quite right, Alan. In fact, we are one of the, we are very adept to self-regulation. In the past, the Hong Kong Federation of Insurers regulated over 120,000 insurance agents in Hong Kong. So we were the regulator for over 30 years. So we're very familiar. And we also launched a number of initiatives to protect our customers. So it's all initiated within the industry. Quoting one of the examples, cooling off initiative. So when you buy an insurance policy, a life insurance policies, you got 21 days to think about it. If you want to cancel it, you can cancel and got your full refund. This is kind of self-regulatory initiative initiated by our industry. So when we talk about big data, I think it will be even more relevant and important because, like Alan said, we're one of the most regulated industries in Hong Kong or in the world. Insurance is always very heavily regulated. But it may be stopping the people, our industry, to try something new, especially when it has to go through the legal and compliance offices. Nowadays, we always joke about it. Even the CEO said yes to your idea. If the chief risk officer or the legal person said no, it will be a no-go. So if we have kind of like a framework which allows more innovation and disruption, it will help a lot. It can be through a lot of different ways. It can be a best practice, it can be a MOU to be signed with a regulator, or it can be done through a third party like the Institute of Big Data Governance. It's like a independent body looking into the practices and help us to build something for our industry. But I think being an industry which is working within a very restrictive framework, we always look for ways to do more innovation, and hopefully we can do it through different platforms.
Thank you. How about Henry? You just mentioned earlier that supply of data is actually quite challenging. How would you envision more data will be becoming available? And that is not just for your own industry, I mean for every industry and also other sectors that would make good use of data.
Yeah, exactly. Getting access to data, more data is definitely a very important goal that we need to achieve. And at the same time, I also mentioned about the fact that we see very tightening regulations. Right? In China, we have the Personal Information Protection Law in 2021. And so how do you actually stay compliant and at the same time being able to get access to more data? It's something that we have always keep in mind and also put a lot of investment around the kind of technology that we research. And in fact, in I think it's around 2021 as well, we proposed what we call the DDTP. It's really a public protocol about distributed data transfer. And we actually leveraged the blockchain technology that we have developed to build a solution around DDTP. Because like under PIAPL, the privacy protection law, every user still can carry their own data. So if the user can actually download the data and we have a way to validate the data that they transmit, then it's really a good way to do data transport. And the kind of solution that we built is already production in China. We, as of the end of last year, we already served more than 3 million requests. And nowadays, we are talking about having 200,000 requests on a daily basis doing this kind of transport by the data owner themselves. Right? And we actually launched this particular solution across border as well for GBA. Because if you talk about the Greater Bay Area, we have a lot of demands around like citizens coming from Hong Kong and Macau going into mainland China. They want to open up an account. They want to apply for a credit card. They want to apply for an insecure loan. Right? But in China, we don't have any information about this particular person. Right? So if they can actually carry the data from Hong Kong, and then the receiving end in China have a way to actually validate the data, I think that would be a perfect solution for GBA. And we have initially launched that solution between Hong Kong and between Macau and Guangdong in Zhuhai, right, as a pilot. So Macau citizens can actually go to Zhuhai and opening up an account, right, using the data that they download from their own bank account in Macau and transmit to, for example, the banks in Zhuhai to apply for a credit card. We cut down substantially the processing time from a few days down to a few minutes, right? And this is the kind of experience that we anticipate for GBA's citizens, right, to travel across the regions. And hopefully down the road, Hong Kong can also join hands. And because just like the Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macau bridge, right, we need 3 anchors. So we need definitely need Hong Kong to come and join to build the infrastructure as quickly as possible.
Well, a follow-up question. I'm sure you use a lot of data. Do you use the trading platform, data exchange or data trading platforms within China a lot, or do you build your own?
Right now, we only focus on the China domestic market. Right, so the kind of data that we look at are mostly around the domestically available data, for example, like energy consumption, your tax data, and inventory data, etc. So, but down the road, we are also looking into collaborations with, like, for example, the virtual banks in Hong Kong, and see whether we can, leveraging the data on both sides and be able to serve a lot of the micro enterprises that doing like all these export business between China and Hong Kong.
Thank you. Horace, healthcare industry use a lot of personal health information. So how do we balance the privacy protection and also the development of your data usage for the industry, not particularly just healthcare, in fact, for other industry as well?
Yeah, sure. It's a really challenging question when we're talking about data privacy and big data development. How could we balance or try to strive for the best for both sides? And first of all, I would start from the internal organization. We could define data governance policies to make sure which data we need to store and which parties can extract the data and what is the purpose of the use cases and the scope of the data. And this will help the organizations to avoid any data over-accessing. And secondly, we can consider from the customer perspective, like the organizations can be transparent and keep communicating with to the patient or the customer that's how their data being used and what's the purpose, and ask their customer consent for the specific purpose regularly. And firstly, we can explore the privacy computing technologies, just like Henry mentioned, for the federated learning and desensitized data, so that we could share the useful insights across the organizations without physically or logically share the information or the personal sensitive data. So those are the, I think that's the methods to address the issues.
Great. I think that we have talked about each of different industries in terms of how data is helping them and also shaping their industry, and equally with certain constraints and challenges. And so if we want to give a summary statement from each of you representing your industry or some takeaway messages, what would you recommend to the group of audience here? So shall we start with Samuel?
From a very macro level, from a Professor Sun level, right? I stand with if I am in the position with him, I will see, in Hong Kong is a very data-driven place, right? And we have a well-recognized legal system. And we've positioned ourselves as a financing app and arbitration center. So what's the fundamentals? Fundamentals is about the data connectivities. Without any, data, you have no say. So the first thing is, I think this is a major building blocks for the government as well, for our industry as well. So we have to collaborate with other countries to talk about the standardization of the data transfer and compliance and control. I can say, right, next 3 or 5 years is a very good timing to talk, because everyone is looking for the after post-pandemic growth. Everyone is looking for the economics recovery or growth. So you have candy for all the countries to talk about these topics. So that is my recommendations. For my company as well, for a very micro perspective, because we are the credit bureau, so we will talk to all the regulators to how to say, to make some of, I can say HCF, highest common factor, or to ally some of some of the regulators to share their experience, to make the common definitions. I can talk to all of you. Even I talk to other countries, some authorities. 90% cases, they are similar. So we will try to get the common arena, and then we talk together and see whether we can try first, and then maybe a pilot run first, and then maybe afterwards you can amend the law. So that is my positions.
Thank you, Samuel. Selena?
Yeah, my comment would be very similar to Samuel's. I think we cannot do it alone, especially from the Federation's perspective. We need to do it through a community. So let's work together, collaborate together, not only from our industry, across the different industries, as well as we have to talk to the regulator, government, even geographically, interconnect with the GBA data. So I think we have to work together.
Great. How about Henry?
Data is essentially the most important raw materials for digital economy, right? So, but as I mentioned earlier, there are challenges to actually mine the value of data. Right, so the two particular challenges are you have to make data more accessible, right? And also you need to be able to collaborate around data. So the two issues can be addressed by technologies. Continuous digital transformation of every industry. I think everybody needs to be persistent about it. And also around the development of privacy-preserving computing technologies like federated learning, blockchain-related technologies. I think this is something that I think we need to actually make more investment around as well. So that's my 3 cents of thought.
Thank you, Henry. Horace?
Yeah, as a healthcare group, we are excited to foresee the high potentials of the big data development, and we are happy to see that the data collaboration amongst different parties in the ecosystem. And also, while we value and protest the customer data privacy, so this is overall is our strategy to move forward.
Thank you. Well, we talk about data is the new oil for digital economy. So first of all, we need to mine the data. So the data are around, but we need to mine them to make them available. The second thing, we need to process them. There's a data cleansing a lot of data processing needs to be done, data modeling. Number 3, data needs to be moved. So there is a pipeline that people are built for oil industries. But here we have data movement cross boundaries, cross borders. So for that, there is a lot of data standards, compliance, and regulations that we all need to work together. And finally, how do we add value to data? AI, healthcare industry, financial industry, data bureau industry, and so many. And the application can be sky being the limit. So again, I think we are back to the G20 messages. We are only at the beginning of seeing the data being searched in applications. And we all need to work together with many more forums like this one, that people are sitting together in a room. We agree to certain standards. We start with something that is agreeable and continue to work out the differences. In fact, at the Institute of Big Data Governance, we look at all the big regulations like GDPR in EU, like the DSL and PIPL in mainland China, like the PDPO in Hong Kong and others. 80% of them are actually, the requirements are similar or exactly the same. Only 20% are different in terms of how they are being seen, in terms of the way they want to treat the data. So the big common part of it can be a starting point for people to flow data. And with the good news of mainland and Hong Kong government achieving data flow memorandum of understanding, we see a beginning of GBA being the first piloted area for the flow of data. And we would like to see how that can be expanded to the rest of China, to the rest of Asia, and to the rest of the world. Once again, I thank our panelists for giving a very insightful sharing for different industries, and all of you for being so patient and waiting for us to finish before lunch. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would our panelists please step forward to take a group photo together? Thank you for the inspiring discussion. Thank you to Engineer Alan Young for moderating this section for us. And thank you to all our panelists. Please face the mobile phone first. And then our official photographer. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Let us thank our moderator and all the panelists once again. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a lunch break from now. In the afternoon section, there will be parallel meetings. We will have a panel discussion with the topic of enhancing the digital infrastructure to boosting business competitiveness here in this room and mitigating DNS abuse, enhancing cybersecurity at the DNS level in N106. Please feel free to join any of these. These sections will begin at 2 o'clock, so please be back by 2 p.m. Thank you and see you in the afternoon. Please be reminded before you leave the venue, please take all of your belongings. Thank you. See you at 2.